everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. Tonight, my guest is Daniel Gomez. Gomez. Daniel is a Texas-based nature photographer with a passion for avian wildlife. Daniel captures not just the beauty of birds, but the stories and behaviors that make them so fascinating. Known for his approachable teaching style, Daniel leads hands-on workshops and photo tours across Central Texas, creating experiences that are as much about connection and discovery as they are about photography. You'll leave not only with better images, but with a deeper appreciation for the natural world. A dedicated advocate for conservation, Daniel is an active member of the Bexar County Audubon Society and the Native Plant Society of Texas. Whether he's in the field or speaking to a group, he brings curiosity, enthusiasm, and a genuine love of nature that's hard not to catch. To see more of his work, please visit his website, dgomezwildlife.com. And if you're on Instagram, you're going to find him at dgomezwildlife. And I will link those in the show notes. But in tonight's presentation, creativity with bird portrait photography, more than just the bird. Daniel will talk about how creative choices can transform a simple bird portrait into a compelling visual story. He'll touch on how we can slow down, read the environment, and use what nature provides to create images that feel intentional, artistic, and emotionally engaging. Welcome back to the Happiness Hour, Daniel.
Hey, good to see you, Linda. Good to see everybody on the
Yay!
show.
Thank you for coming back. And thank you for telling me that I really wanted to come back, but I was afraid to ask you. And I was like, never be afraid, Daniel. Just throw
Yeah,
it out there. We'll fit you in.
yeah, I love doing this. I love
Yeah.
being with your group.
Well, thank you so much. All right. Anything? You know what? When I wrote that, I said Central Texas workshops, but for some reason, either you've said it or I think you should be doing it. I think you go deep South Texas, right? Down. So you're y'all, he covers a little bit more than Central Texas, so ignore me. Go to his website and look and see what he's offering.
Yep, do a few of them. The Deep South Texas is one-on-one workshops, and the Hill Country ones I do one-on-one there as well. But also the group workshops with another photographer. His name is Bill Weekly, and that's like right in the middle in
Uh-huh.
Central
Yep.
Texas.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so. Mhm.
Well, thank you. All right. If you don't need to add anything else, you can jump right in or make
Okay.
sure I didn't skip over anything that you're like, hey, I wish you would have said this. But if I missed anything, take that opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I think I've probably said too on this before. Like, my goal is like not to make this a career of mine. I'm very happy with my job and my life, but like I try to get people inspired to want to visit Texas and photograph the birds here, the wildlife, the nature, because
Mhm.
it really is beautiful. And I feel, I feel like Texas in a way is kind of overlooked compared to the hill country is overlooked compared to some of the other places around the US. So my goal is to just try to get more interest in our area. So
Well, I love that because it makes it easy for me.
yeah.
And anybody visiting, come see us. All right, go ahead, Daniel. Let's get started.
All right. Let me see. Here's my presentation creativity with bird portrait photography, more than just the bird. So, brief introduction about me. My name is Daniel Gomez. I've been photographing now for a little over 5 years. I started off as a bird watcher with my family. We would take trips to the Rio Grande Valley. I have fond memories of going to places like King's Ranch and seeing birds like the green jays and vermilion flycatchers, great kiskadee. I could go down the list, and those kind of piqued my curiosity of birds in high school. But at that time, I was more into other things than birds, so I had them in my mind, but never really, I guess, paid too much attention till I got a little bit more into college and grew up. And then I did some bird watching in there too, kind of got interested, but never just fully involved. Um, and then it wasn't until around COVID when I had a sports injury, and I needed surgery. And I was already stuck at home with COVID and had nothing to do. So that's when I picked up my camera, and I started photographing birds in my backyard, and kind of fell in love with the hobby ever since then. And also I at that point I remember when I was like, do I want to be more of a bird watcher that takes photos of birds, or do I want to get into the photography form of it? So that's when I picked up the art form of wildlife photography. And I'm very thankful to have had wonderful mentors like Scott Keys and Ray Hennessy help me out along the way. And I credit so much success to them, because they really shaped who I am today as a photographer, and they helped shape my passion for not just birds but wildlife in general. Because those guys, they've got passion, and they share it to their students, and I definitely picked it up from them. So. So here's kind of the agenda. I tried to make this a little structured, kind of like a school presentation, but we'll see how that goes. I have some notes, but a lot of it's also kind of going to be on the fly here. So I think it'll be great either way. But so we're going to cover three topics here. Creativity. What is that? It sounds pretty off basic, but we're going to go into some more detail on that. The real world, how does that look in your bird photography? And the third part is kind of what I look for in what I see out in the world. So creativity, what is that? Back to my slide here. So for me, you know, creativity is not really something that comes naturally to me. I know you all out there, you all are the real artists. You have that eye. Linda has that eye. I that person who struggles to see, an artistic work in front of me out in nature. I have to like actually study it and take that time and be like, oh, this is actually looks beautiful. There's people out there on Instagram, on social media. I mean, they just like click and they see it like that. And I wish I had that skill, but I don't. I think that is such a true gift that if people have that, then I mean, my God, you're already like way ahead of me. So I have a question for y'all to think about during this presentation. So, creativity, is that about the subject, or is that about the way we see the subject? So, creativity to you could look like, oh, I've got this beautiful bird isolated in beautiful light. Another viewer could say, yeah, using this vermilion flycatcher as an example, yeah, it's just like, it's a soggy bird on a stick. It's like, is there really that much creativity in that? And that's kind of what I want to get out of this presentation for you all, is just keep in mind creativity is what you decide. It's not what anybody else tells you. And if there's any new photographers out there and someone tells you they don't like your work because it's not something that they themselves enjoy, that's okay. It's your work, it's your art, it's not for them, it's for you. So just keep that in mind throughout this presentation. Um, don't let anybody sway you a certain way. Do what you love or do what you like. And that's one thing that I've learned throughout this journey too. Is just whatever makes you happy, do that. However, there are some tools out there that you can use as guidelines that you can follow to help aid in creating art. Um, and with that, again, I will even say consider go against the grain on those and push those boundaries. It will make you a better artist, just like anything in life. If you push the boundaries and go against the grain and question things, it'll make you a better person. In this case, make you a better artist. So from here, I'll give you some examples of what I consider creativity in my art. Um, this is a pygmy nuthatch I photographed late last year, I think in November. We took a trip to Colorado and we stayed at a campsite there. And that place was so good. There was just so many of these little guys bouncing around. It was so cute. Um, And this picture is a tree that's directly above our campsite with our RV and our truck we rented. And it's so funny. It kind of like it's just looking down at us. And this picture, I kind of wanted to create that view of like, hey, this bird is like imagine you as this little pine nut and you're about to get eaten by this little this cute little pygmy nuthatch and he's like looking like, ooh, I'm about to get you. So that's kind of what I thought of when I captured this. I was like, you know what? I kind of feel like I'm one of those pine nuts in this picture. So that's an example to me of something that I felt was creative to my work. So I'm moving on here. Another picture. This is the vermilion flycatcher, one of my favorite birds. These birds are just so stunning. And if you haven't seen one, I hope you can one day. Or if you do, if you want to see one, come visit with me and I'll get you one. These birds are one of my spark birds. And creativity here, this is another example of like just you could really go bare bones on it. This is just a bird on a stick. It's on an agave stalk. It's to some people it may not be something special, but what I at least try to do is to make something else other than just the bird the main focus of my work. And that would probably be the light in this situation, like these little splotches of bokeh, just the early morning sunrise. To me, I think arguably are more beautiful than the bird. Somebody could see it as that. So that's what I wanted to go with this. And this shot too, I remember this day. I saw this bird, and it had a nest in the area, and it would go back and forth with the female trying to snipe insects out of the sky. And I went in the afternoon, and the light was, of course, behind me. So I was like, "Oh man, if I come here in the morning, this is gonna look amazing. I can already tell it." And sure enough, that this is it. So there was a little bit of planning in this shot, but not really. I didn't think it would come out like this colorful, but this is what ended up happening. So here's another example of kind of like a moody scene that you could consider creative. You just kind of got this all dark at the top and up the bottom, and then you just got this thin layer of light, and you see this male and female hooded merganser pair floating by. And I like this shot too. For one, of course, it captures both of them. I wish that male hoodies had his hood lifted up. That would be probably the next level to this shot. But that moody feel and that scene kind of creates this creative spark to my eye. It's just, everything's out of focus, or everything's dark and moody and hidden except for the birds. So I kind of like that in this shot. And actually that really helped me out in post processing, because I darkened the top quite a bit, because this is along a river. And right in that background is like the tree roots that are exposed. So, those don't look too nice to me when I see them they didn't look too nice to me when I saw them in the field. So I kind of worked with the post processing and kind of darkened the scene overall and created this look that I ended up liking. Um, Here's a Rufous crowned sparrow again on an agave, actually the same agave as the vermilion flycatcher. And so this is going to talk to you about curves here. This theme here kind of is if you can see, there's just curves all throughout this image here. Even the bird, you can kind of see that curvature going on here. And this is definitely a family friendly show. I won't get into it too much, Linda, but the human eye is intrinsically captured by curvature, and I won't get into more than that, but that's something that we look for in art. And so when you're out in the field, that's something you can pay attention to. Just look for those curvatures because they capture the human eye. So second point here is the real world. You know, I I love a clean image of a bird. Don't get me wrong. I love it when I see a clean background and a clean, beautiful perch and the bird is so in focus. And I share a lot of pictures like that as well. But I also love kind of this messy real world look. But I feel like I don't go too messy with my work. I try to at least kind of clean it up a little bit, and definitely with post processing, I get some help with that. Probably a little bit more than some people would do. Um, but this is kind of an example of what I love. I love seeing these colorful images and this kind of look. And this is a Texas redbud here, another vermilion flycatcher, of course, and it's kind of just framed in with with this blooming red bud. And this was actually captured just a few weeks ago out here in the hill country. And at first, I didn't like this image. I was like, "Oh man, this." I even thought this was too messy for me. I was like, "This is not going to turn out good." But I worked on it a little bit, and of course, with some help with Photoshop and Lightroom, I ended up getting this, and I was like, you know what, this is actually kind of nice. And I didn't even touch the bird color at all. It looks like, to me, looks a little bit over red, but I promise you, I didn't saturate the bird at all. The flowers, the blooms I did, but the bird I didn't touch it at all. And I never knew this, but the red bud the flowers are actually edible, and people can put them in salads and kind of garnish them with that. I had no idea, and I learned that recently. So, and I think you can even make like teas. People have made teas with those red bud blooms. So, pretty interesting. And here's a image of a black-crested titmouse in a cypress. And this is kind of how you see these little songbirds just bouncing around through the leaves in the trees. This is the real world to me. Um, and I'm covering up, half the bird, but this is the kind of the style and the look that I love seeing, because this is, to me, this is the real world. And there's even a little bonus here. I didn't even notice this when I first captured it, but this little caterpillar right here. I guess these black-crested titmice will go for these caterpillars once in a while. I know they prefer seeds and nuts or whatever, but they might take those little guys. So I wish this was an actual like bird that regularly eats these little caterpillars, because it kind of looks like he's hiding, pretending to be a little bit of these little leaves from the cypress. But so I like this shot. I will say though, I think that head of the titmouse might be just a tad degree facing away from me. I guess it doesn't look too bad right now, but I would have liked his head to maybe a little bit moved in more towards my camera. But anyways. Here's another example of the real world. Eastern meadowlark, I believe this was photographed in deep South Texas. So you got these Spanish daggers everywhere down there in those flat open fields, and these meadowlarks love perching on them. They love these little dead sticks too. And so I'm kind of trying to capture the feel of the environment of the place I was at. And I remember like looking for this bird. I was like, oh, I can't get a clean shot of it. So then I was like, oh, whatever. I'll just try and photograph it through the cactus, and then it eventually, I managed to get my little point on the bird, and I was like, hey, this is actually kind of nice after all. So I like this shot. I would have liked, though, if I could incorporate the whole cactus. Of course, it's kind of cut off at the end there. So that's a thing too. I'm always thinking about how can I level up my shot. Like you saw with the hooded merganser one a few slides ago. I wish I could get that hood up. This one, I wish I could get the plant in the whole frame. So that's also just a good mindset for you to have, is how can I always level up my game? And I think that helps spark creativity as well, because it'll grow that way if you can always think, how can I level up my game? Here's another one, blackneck stilt in along the coast, along the Gulf Coast. So I photographed this, with this foreground. I've got this marsh grass in the foreground, got this whatever this thing is here in there with the bird, and in the background I've got a light source. I don't even know what that was. That was taken in Rockport. So there, I'm sure there's some some building that had a flickering light going on out there. So I like this. This is just a totally an environment shot. And there's a little piece of some sort of fish or something in its beak there that he's got stuck to him, or maybe it's a feather, I can't tell. But this is that real world look that I love. I love seeing this, and it's, the legs are cut off on the bird, but that's okay. This is just how you see blackneck stilts when you're down there. I mean, you can get them in open field, in open coastal areas as well, but I'm laying there with the bird. I'm in the mud, I'm in the water, I'm getting bit by these whatever these flies are, whatever these mosquitoes are, but that's just what I love. This is a painted bunting in a cedar elm, I believe that's the tree here. And this was taken a little bit later in the breeding season. Actually, this might have been in July, like it's like when they're kind of getting ready to almost leave. He's you can kind of see his feathers are kind of looking a little scraggly there. I think this was in either early July or late June, but he's still singing. So yeah, this is a cedar elm, beautiful tree. I need to spend more time with this tree because I love the colors and the leaves on these cedar elms. So that's one thing that you can try to look for with your creativity, and that's what got me into native plants and our beautiful hill country is how can I get not just the photograph the bird beautifully, but also showcase our plants in our area? How can I get them to be shown beautifully too, not just the bird? So yeah, cedar elm is one of my favorite trees that we have here, and I love the framing of this shot. And so, if I can give you an advice in this is look for those beautiful colors you have in your area. Look for those native plants, those native trees, and it'll just spark your curiosity like it did for me. Going on to some waterfowl here. Here is a lesser scalp, and this is just color here. This is just all about the color. This beautiful pink sky, beautiful bird. That when that light hits these lesser scalps, they just kind of glow in this iridescence. And those in the bufflehead have some beautiful color, but you don't normally see like you won't see that color if you go out there on a overcast day or yeah, if the sun's not out, you may not see that iridescence, but it's there, so I try to highlight that as well. So my third point here, kind of what I look for. We talked about the real world, we talked about creativity. What is that? So I just kind of wanted to go into what I typically look for out in the field, and one of the things I look for here is light. That's just another way you can just really get your creative juices going is just try to photograph your subjects in beautiful light. This is also in the Gulf Coast of Texas, and right at sunset, you just have that glow. And I struggled with this shot too. This is a Wilson's phalarope, and I struggled early on. I was like, how can I work on this light? I thought it was a little bit too strong on the raw file, but I managed to kind of work around it and brought out some more of that beautiful plumage on these birds. And so I ended up getting this shot, and I like it. And I know there's a lot of people that are against vertical cropping because you cut so much of your image, but I don't mind it in certain situations. And so just kind of keep that in mind. And this is when I originally actually went horizontal on my crop, and then I decided to kind of cut off some of the negative space to the right there and just kind of center in on those out of focus aquatic plants there. And this bird was so much fun. He was just bouncing all throughout this little marshy area, cat like going for flies, going for stuff in the water. And I can remember like crawling, army crawling to try and get closer to this bird. He'd go farther, or they would. There was a pair of them. They'd go farther away. I'd crawl a little bit. It was like cows catching up to them. I remember my muscles, my abs were so sore after chasing these guys. Eventually, they went further in, and there was like this vegetation where they couldn't see me. So they were like in there kind of doing their feeding. And so I was able to get a little bit closer, and then they came out of that. And that's when I caught this one here walking out. So that's what you see in the background, that green out of focus is that's where they had gone into. So like I said, light is just one of the things that I probably the main thing I look for, even more so than the bird. This could be to me, this could be a house sparrow or a pigeon, like, and as long as you have the light there, I think this is that it's beautiful. So this was taken in the sunset and the afternoon, and that glow, I still remember that beautiful glow and those little flies or gnats, whatever those are. That's that bokeh that you see those little dots on, and for a brief while there was actually like a good number of these dick sissels perched on these. I think this is poverty weed. I'm not entirely sure. I want to say that's what the plant is that he's on, but they were just singing throughout this area for a couple weeks there, and I kept going. I spent probably more time than most photographers would to just capture a dick sissel on this on this plant. Um, but I was just so in love with the light and the scene, and just kind of just connecting with nature there. And so I kept going, and I finally got a shot that I liked there. Actually, I have a couple that I haven't even worked on, but that's the thing too. Just if you feel like there's potential in a spot, if you feel that there's just something there, keep going, keep trying. Don't give up if you don't get one shot immediately. Don't give up if you don't get a couple shots immediately. Keep going and trying. I mean, you're not out there, it's not your job. Maybe some people it is, but just try to enjoy nature as well, not just like be so stressed about it. That's one thing that I was so early on focused on, like I gotta get out this shot, gotta go out to this place because this is happening. But I've tried to mellow down in kind of in my style and what I do now. So I'm just all about just enjoying the moment now. And so that's another piece of advice. And also maybe that's a good thing too. If you kind of slow down and mellow out and just kind of breathe it all in, you might find a scene and be like, hey, this is actually stunning. I can work with this. And so it's another piece of advice for you. Another shorebird. This is a black-bellied plover. Again, I think this was in Corpus Christi, Texas. I photographed this one, and this light was just so beautiful. Early morning, got those beautiful pastel colors of the pink and the blue in the sky, and that green grass, of course, back there. This is actually the same place as the Wilson's phallop. I remember now, the same place. Opposite side though. And so I just love the light here, and this I love black-bellied plovers. They're probably my favorite shorebird. I don't know why. They're not like the most colorful shorebird out there, but I love that. I love these birds. So kind of got that action step there, and again that light is just something that you've got to chase. It's so rewarding when you can capture any bird in beautiful light. So. Here's a roseate spoonbill again along the Gulf Coast, and here's a light again. You've got these beautiful rays coming in there, and I'm just trying to showcase that. I guess this bird was calling. He's got his beak open. I don't remember him making sound, but I managed to get that in a little step going there, and the reflection as well. It's showing off the light of those rays and the reflection, and trying to capture that. I wish the background wasn't so messy. To me, it's a little messy. I wish I could have had it more smoother, but this is the bird's environment. This is what I see, what I saw out there. So that's fine. That's fine. And this is my only roseate spoonbill image. I never get these guys. I feel like you got to go to like Florida or someplace where they're more common and more friendlier. Yeah, I have such bad luck. Maybe Kevin can can help me out and give me some tips for some spoonbill shots over there. Um, but so again, it's all about the light, and then so that's what I try to incorporate for my artwork. And again, kind of going back to how we see these birds bouncing around in the leaves and the trees. This is a northern parula. Actually, this was This was kind of photographed in the east, kind of the eastern part of Texas. I hadn't been out there too much for my bird photography, but I took a trip last year out there and I got it in this sycamore tree and I love this picture. I don't think it did so good on Instagram, but I love it. I love how it's just the little eyes peeking out there, half the bird's covered up. I know, and, so many people will just say that, why aren't you showing off the bird? For me, I like this shot. I love that little eye that I peek through, and it just makes me feel like I'm in the tree, like I'm a northern parula, and I'm foraging, I'm hunting, I'm calling in these trees. So that's I just love that feel. When I see images like that, I just try and picture myself. And it just gives me so much passion and love. So. Here's a wide-eyed vireo on in a Mexican buckeye. This is I want again. I want another level to this. That I'm always thinking of the next step. I wish I could photograph and show off these Mexican buckeyes better because this is a beautiful plant. I think it's pretty underrated in our area. But these Mexican buckeyes have these beautiful pink flowers, and it's so out of focus here, but you can kind of just barely see some parts of it. Um, and they're blooming right now. They look beautiful, these Mexican buckeye. So I got a wide-eyed vireo. I wish I could have shown off the plant more. But I tried my best to not just show off the plant, but also try to minimize some distracting elements of it. And you can kind of see like I'm not too much of a fan of this stick going through. So that's one thing I'm not too big of a fan of, but I can't make it perfect. It's nature. It's not perfect. It's beautiful, but it's not perfect. So I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna try again probably this weekend to try to get something in a Mexican buckeye. I've got some spots, but I'm showing off the native plant and the bird. Here's a canyon wren. This was photographed, years ago. This is also I'm covering half the bird, but this is to me is kind of funny. It's like, hey, Cody, it's still early. Why are you up? Like I picture it saying that to me. So this was photographed. If anybody's ever been to Pedernales Falls State Park, there's a bird blind area. And there's some, these are fence posts. These aren't trees. These are fence posts, and this canyon wren was bouncing around there, you would hear it calling, and you would just try to photograph it. You get your camera up and you focus in, and he goes. Same thing. You put your camera up, you focus, and he goes. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna time and pray he peeks out of these little fence posts, and sure enough, he did. And early on too, I was more focused on trying to just photograph any bird I could find. Like that's how I was thinking about being a bird watcher. So at first I was like not too in love with this shot, but now where I'm at now, I love this. I love this kind of this funny little pose and this look, and the light is gorgeous on the two, this early morning glow. So just keep that in mind. If you have shots, maybe you're on the fence about, don't throw them away because they might end up being something you like or you can work with later on. So, I'm not a teacher. I took one art class in college, don't remember anything about it, but I have learned a couple things along the way in my photography journey. So, I wanted to introduce, if anybody's ever heard of color theory, this is something you can kind of elevate your creativity game and kind of follow, like I said early in the presentation, use as a guideline. So, what you'll see here is I don't want to get into detail too much on this because you could spend an entire presentation on color theory, but to make it as short and sweet as possible, if I can put my mouse here, you'll see take using this example of a tropical perula again in a Texas redbud, you'll see the blues and the yellows and these kind of red violet colors of the flowers. You'll see here's the yellow on the wheel, here's the blue, and here's the red violet. They kind of make this triangle. And what the whole, I guess the purpose of showing this is, um, if they're kind of opposite on the color wheel, they are complementary colors. So when you see this picture of this tropical perula in this Texas redbud, these colors complement each other and they create more engagement, they create a more attractiveness to a human eye. So if you can kind of keep this in mind when you're out in nature, kind of think about when you see, oh, is there anything that goes with green and red together? Orange and blue. And this is just such a bare bones. I could spend hours talking about this. You could have a whole presentation, but kind of keep that in mind. And you can just Google color wheel or color theory, and you can go down the rabbit hole. But just kind of keep that in mind when you're out in the field. Look for those colors. And here's a spotted towhee. I don't know about you guys, but I am so bad at photographing spotted towhees. They're always scratching around on the ground. They're always covered up in a sticky mess. I can never get shots of spotted towhees. So I tried to do my best and photographed it's a bird on a stick, but there's kind of this foreground window here that I ended up liking. And it kind of getting that peekaboo, that window magic, as I like to call it, with this bird. So you know, try to work with what you got. Try to work with what you have. And I remember I was photographing with a friend, and we were up on this hill, and we had heard the spotted towhees. They're kind of make that little mew sound, so we knew they're around. Um, and I think I might have made like a little fishing noise just to try to spark its curiosity to get it up. And it got up on this stick, and then I was like, oh my God, I can't focus in on it. There's so much stuff. Finally, I managed to focus in and got it through the window, and and I thought it was gonna leave, and he was bouncing around, like looking around. So I thought he was just gonna get fed up and leave after the pishing sound, but he stayed long enough, thank God. And I think this might be my only spotted towhee. Although I have seen these guys perch and sing in Colorado and in New Mexico. I was like, oh, they're so lucky. I love spotted towhees. I think they're so colorful, like that little orange rufous sides. I think they're beautiful birds, but I can never photograph them, and they're just here for us in the winter time. So, if you ever want to get spotted towhees, I've seen them singing in New Mexico and Colorado. So, probably other places too, but here's an osprey just coming out of the water after an unsuccessful catch. Again, I'm thinking, how can I take this photo to the next step? I gotta have a fish in those talons. Um, I love the water dripping off the breast and in the back here. And I never go for raptors. I can never find good spots to photograph raptors. Um, so I will take this any day of the week, even though I don't have a fish in those talons. I love the early morning glow from that light, kind of focused in on here, and I love the eye of these ospreys. I'm gonna go back to this place and try next year because I never get raptors. So. Um, I'm always tr thinking about that. Like I've said throughout this presentation, I'm always trying to build up on what I have, and I think that's great. I think that's something you can always work on. Always never stay stagnant. So just keep that in mind. Always, just how can I elevate my photos and take them to the next step? So wrapping up the presentation here, our 3 points we talked about creativity. What's that? I know I hope you kept that question in mind, and I'd love to hear your responses in the comments, or you can message me. The real world, it's not always pretty. It's messy, especially in South Texas with all that brush, and especially in the hill country. But you can work with that. And I also kind of showed you what I look for. And like I said early on in the beginning, don't let anybody tell you that what you have is not creative, because you are an artist. You are creative. You have that eye. Whatever you see is creative. That's you. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And so if you get anything from this presentation, just keep that in mind. Don't let anybody influence you. So yeah, that's it, Linda.
You
Thank
end
you.
up like, that's it, like you didn't give us enough. I'm like, oh my gosh, Daniel. I'm gonna make sure that you get a copy of the chat because there's a few people poking fun of you, like, oh, you don't think you're creative. It's like, whoa, everything
It
that you
doesn't
showed
come
us,
naturally, I
yeah.
promise you. And I
Uh-huh.
fail so much in the field. I'll come home so often without shots, but it's
Yeah,
I
that's fair. That's fair. All right, let me get you to take down your screen. I've got a question in here from Kevin. Well, actually, maybe keep that up real quick and see if you can find it. It's the Wilson's Falarope shot. Do you know
I,
that one? Can you put that one up? So his question was, how did you manage to get that bokeh in that shot? He says the close plants appear to be in nearly the same focal plane as the bird. He's just wondering, um, it's a nice effect. So he's just wondering how you did that.
yeah, they do. I didn't blur them or anything. So they kind of do look. I guess they're kind of in the. But I see what he's saying. I
Mhm.
guess they're kind of in the middle of me and the bird, but they do look awfully close to the Fowler rope. So I can't remember. I remember photographing them and being there. Um, but I promise I didn't blur anything of this image.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to ask you to take that down. Okay. So, Darlene's question for you is your depth of field is perfect in these shots. She's like, can you talk about lenses for a minute?
Yeah, I'll try.
Yeah. What kind of lenses what are you working with?
I just have one right now. I have the 180 to 600. I wish I could get the 70 to 200, especially that version 2 that they have. That's probably going to be my next lens. But I have the Nikon 180 to 600 f 5 6.3, what is it? 5.6 to 6.3, I think that's what
Okay.
it is.
All right.
So it's a very uh, budget friendly bird photographer lens and wildlife photographer lens. I would recommend it, honestly. It's a great lens. It's a step up from the DSLR 200 to 500 millimeter lens. So it's a great affordable zoom lens if you don't want to break the budget and go for like a 500 prime or gosh, that 400 2.8 built-in teleconverter that's like 13 grand or something, like 14 grand.
Well, that's fantasy lens money at that point.
Yeah.
All right, let me look. Let me just scroll through really quick. There's a lot of nice comments in here. Y'all are great. I always tell people like the attendees are like the best in the room. They're just so supportive and they have really nice comments for my guests and it's just nice. It's nice
Yeah.
to see for me to read them because I read them too. But
Yeah.
all
The group.
right. So right off the bat, the question is, when are you coming back, Daniel?
I would love to come back again anytime. I love this group. Like you said, Linda, I love and everybody's been so nice to me, so kind to me. So
Well, you get what you give. All right. Todd's question is, any tips on scouting your birds and location?
yes, and again, this. I'll tell you what I look for. You may want something different, but this is just, I guess, I'll tell you what I do. For songbirds, I'm always looking for elevation. I want to be eye level with the birds. I'm not. For me, I'm not a fan of photographing a bird higher than me, and it's kind of about perspective. Um, so. I look for locations where I can be eye level with the treetops. Although those songbirds generally are up there in the trees, and I know you've got painted buntings and blue grosbeaks that they're kind of found in open fields areas like the vermilion flycatchers, but
Mhm.
generally you've got warblers and vireos that they love the up there in the trees. So even even painted buntings and grosbeaks. You might want to look for locations where you can, as long as you can get eye level with the birds. That's one thing I look for always. I don't want to. I personally don't want to photograph a warbler that's up in the trees looking down at me or not eye level with me.
Sure. So I'm going to back you up on the vermilion flycatcher. So there's a little area that I explore when I'm looking for wildlife, and I've only seen one, and now he has a missus. So
Oh,
he's kind of like the resident flycatcher. So I know where typically he's going to be, and if I just park. And because I usually do this driving. So if I just park and I just wait and wait and wait, it won't take them long. They're very curious. And,
mhm,
I'll take his photo and I'll look at the back of my camera. And it's like, dude, I need you to tone it down because he's so vivid. And many people will say, oh, she jacked up the saturation in there. I'm like, no, they are just flaming. And so I kind of chuckled when you said, I promise you I didn't mess with the color. He did not. They are very, very, and they're tiny. I describe them as like the size of a ping pong ball. I mean, they're so tiny and they've got a beautiful song. So if you ever get a chance to photograph one, you're going to have a lot of fun because they're very, very curious and they will stick around. They'll fly off, they'll come back, and they'll do flyovers just to see what you're doing. So that's been my experience with them.
yep, yep, same. I agree absolutely. They're beautiful birds.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So I'm giggling because I'm looking at Christy's note. She says this elevation thing is a problem. She's in New Jersey. There is no elevation for her. All right, Daniel, I'm gonna shut this session down and call it a good one, and it's good to go. All right, Daniel. Um, Thank you. Thanks for coming and sharing. And thank you for being up for doing this again, maybe next year. All
Yeah.
right. All right, next week, Valerie Hoffman will be here with her presentation, Creative Flower Photography. It's spring in Texas, y'all. We're actually approaching summer the way our temperatures are. But a few of you guys still are kind of melting and coming out of the cold. So I think she's going to be very timely with her presentation and hit us all just right. All right, with that, y'all have a nice night, and we'll see you next week.